All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 7. This is docket 6680-AF-102. On April 1st, 2021, Wisconsin Power and Light Company filed an application requesting to defer the retail portion of incremental pre-certification costs and to begin accruing allowance for funds used during construction on pre-construction costs associated with its recently proposed solar generation development in docket 6680-CE-183. The applicant estimates its total incremental pre-certification and pre-construction costs will be approximately $64 million by the end of 2021. They further request that the deferred pre-certification costs include a carrying cost at its most recently authorized short-term debt rate. The applicant has sought construction authorization in 2 separate applications, the first of which addressed 675 megawatts of new solar generation and was approved on June 24, 2021 in docket 6680-CE-182. The Commission approved authorization to defer incremental costs on pre-certification and begin accruing AFUDC on activities related just to that docket. And now the applicant has since filed a second certificate of authority seeking 414 megawatts of new solar generating facilities. And so now the request before us is related to that particular project. Pre-certification expenses include all expenditures incurred prior to receipt of Commission authorization. And then there are some exclusions. There are no pre-certification costs for potential new generation sources currently reflected in their rates that were last authorized as a part of their settlement. And similarly, their test year stabilization filing that's recently been filed did not include any pre-certification or pre-construction costs. They propose to start amortizing in their next rate proceeding. The project for which they're seeking this approval might not ultimately be approved. And that was the basis upon which I made my decision the last time around. So I am not inclined to grant deferral of any pre-certification costs in order for us to stay consistent with the uniform system of accounts. So the first decision in front of us is on page 6 of the Commission memo. And for this one, I'm at Alt 2. I would not allow them to defer their pre-certification costs associated with the pending solar generation docket. Commissioner Noel.
Yeah, and I'm going to be where I was the last time. This is substantially the same request they made in docket 6680 AF 100. And for the reasons I was at allowing pre-certification, I'm consistent with that. Again, deferral, we're not saying there is recovery. They're subject to audit in a future rate proceeding. So I think a deferral is appropriate here for the same reasons as I said earlier. So again, I'm at alternative 1.
Okay. Commissioner Heath?
Yeah, I too am at alternative 1 on this. And it, I guess, kind of turns on the statement of position that's described on page 5 of our memo. And I'm looking at, some of these that don't apply. The one that I think does is related to the non-typical or non-customary nature of this, given that the tax credit treatment requires certain things to happen in order to lock those in. So I too, for the same reason last time at alternative 1, I would authorize this.
Okay. I'm going to stay at Alt 2. So further, they've requested to approve carrying costs on those pre-certification costs at their current short-term debt rate, which is 2.75%. And since this would occur for a period of less than a year, the Commission memo points out that it might be reasonable to use that short-term debt rate. However, because I am not inclined to approve the cost, I wouldn't approve carrying costs. So I'm at Alt 2 for the carrying costs. Commissioner Nowak.
Yeah, I'm at Alt 1. Their request is reasonable.
Okay.
I'm at alternative 1 as well.
Okay. Then they've also requested to begin accruing carrying costs on the pre-cert costs as of April 1st, 2021, which is the date of application. Typically, that's not how it works. We typically authorize the accrual to begin a day after the service of our final decision. So for this one, I was at Alt 2, where the date would be 1 day after the date of our final decision in the docket. So that's Alt 2. Commissioner Nowak?
Yeah, I give them credit for asking again, but it didn't convince me this time. I'm going to stick with the date following the date after final decision, Alt 2.
I'm at Alt 2 as well.
Okay. Never hurts to ask again.
Yep, just never know.
And then finally, they have requested to record their pre-construction expenditures as QUIP, or construction work in progress, and to begin accruing AFUDC as of the date of the final decision in this order. And consistent with the position I took back in December, I think that this is reasonable, so I would allow them to record the costs in QUIP and to accrue AFUDC on 100%. So I'm at Alt 1.
Yep, I agree with that.
I'm also at alternative 1.
Okay, great.
Okay, in docket 6680 AF 102, I move that we approve the request by Wisconsin Power and Light Company to defer incremental pre-certification. Should we split it? Did we split it last time?
Yeah, you split it.
To defer their incremental pre-certification costs at the short-term debt rate and begin accruing, and that's it for those two, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll move that.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Me?
And then I move that we allow them to begin accruing, WP&L to begin accruing allowance funds used during construction on pre-construction costs associated with the solar generation resource development to take effect 1 day after the date of this final decision.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That ends our official business for the open part of this meeting. We are now going to go into closed session in order to discuss litigation matters, as noted on our agenda with legal counsel. So I'll take a motion to go into closed session.
I move we move into close pursuant to 1985 sub 1 sub G. Is that right? Hold that in my head.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're in closed session.